Hello, it is the 1st of January. It's a little bit dark. It's been quite a day. I finished Stranger Things and I read my first book of the year. This is When Gavin Met Stacey and Everything in Between by Ruth Jones and James Corden. And now I'm sitting on the couch and I cannot move because there is a doggo. She hates the camera. There is a doggo sitting on my lap. But I did finish this. I listened to it, which is the right choice, and I read along, which is also the right choice because there's stuff in here that's not in the audiobook, and there's stuff in the audiobook that's not in here. So basically, both of them are a conversation, and they address this. Ruth and James address this. Ruth and James, I say as if they're my best friends. Ruth and James address this in the audiobook when they say, this is a conversation that was written down and now they're being asked to do the audiobook. They don't want to read it word for word. They want to have a conversation. So they're trying to recreate the conversation that they have in the book. And yeah, there are things that are in the audiobook that are not in the printed book, and there are things in the printed book that are not in the audiobook, and to get them both at the same time is the best of both worlds. And I loved it. This was my first read of the year. I set it up to be if you can see, I have the TV on. I've muted it. But if you can see, no, I set it up. I set it up to be the best book to start the year with. And it absolutely is the best book to start the year with for me. So much nostalgia and hope and inspiration, so much love between these two, just beautiful, beautiful platonic love. Like one of the reasons why Gavin and Stacey, in Gavin and Stacey, Nessa and Smithy never kiss. It's like those two characters never kiss. They do other things, but they never kiss. And one of the reasons why is because they just couldn't do it. Like James and Ruth just couldn't do it. And yet they are so platonically in love with each other. It's a delight. It's an absolute delight to see such a close friendship that has led to so much creative spark. The guy who plays Mick at the end, like they record some of the main cast's responses to the final script, and the guy who plays Mick calls them the Dream Weavers. And I just think that's so perfect. That's so beautiful. They are the Dream Weavers. Together, they are the Dream Weavers. And they created such a beautiful thing, and they're so honest and proud and humble about it. And to listen to them talk is to feel like you're in the room with two best friends who are talking through this great thing that they accomplished. And what's fun is that they're always pointing out something that's absolutely brilliant about the show that they didn't anticipate would be absolutely brilliant. Like there's the creative spark, and there's skill, and there's luck. And it took all of these things to come together to create this phenomena that is Gavin and Stacey. And what a joy to be there for a conversation between the two of them about this thing that we all love. For different reasons. Like I love it, they love it, but they don't know I exist, but if they did, we'd be friends. I'm certain of it. I'm certain. Anyway, what a great way. What a great way. If you've never watched this show, I say give it a shot. Give it a chance. Anyway, first read of the year done. Stranger Things done. Stranger Things. All I will say is that I think from a storytelling perspective, it was the only way, the best way, the absolute best way to end this story. And also, for those of you who know, if you know, you know, I believe. I believe. The storyteller in me does not believe. The writer does not believe. The teacher of literature does not believe. But the viewer believes. Hi. I thought that we were very much overdue for a check-in, so let's do that. I think the next thing that I have finished reading was Redwall by Brian Jacques. This is one of those books that I decided to visit this year, either because of nostalgia or because it was a book that I felt like I'd missed in my childhood. Full disclosure, I'm going to be doing a lot of that this year, a lot of rereading, a lot of nostalgia-based reads, really, because in December I have a very big birthday coming up, and I am just wanting to pave the way towards that birthday with the past, like with an eye on the future, though, very much on the future, and the present, like how do I feel about these things now? But when I was a kid, I saw this, but I also saw this, and this did not feel like it was of any interest to me. I did not feel like this author would have anything to say to me. I know, whatever. But I was a kid and I was reading Laura Ingalls Wilder and Charlotte Bronte and Janet Oake and Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume. I was not reading old men in flat hats with gray beards. And I also really didn't read, and still really don't, books about animals, except for The Rats of Nim. I did love the Rats of Nim. But I saw this, all my friends were reading this, and I didn't read it at all. And so as an adult, it always kind of stuck with me, like, am I missing out? Am I missing out? And so as an adult, for the very first time this month, I picked it up and gave it a read, and it is such a delight. It's such a delight. You know, the whole thing about reading books about animals, I just don't want to read something where an animal or a child or an adult that does not have, fully developed reasoning capability. I really don't want to read anything where they are being abused or where they are scared or where they are in danger that they cannot find a way out of. I just really cannot handle that level of sadness paired with anxiety. If it is simple sadness, I can handle it. If it is anxiety happening to a character that could reason through, I can handle it. But when you pair those two things together and place them on like a weight on just a very innocent creature, I just can't handle it. But the great thing about Redwall is that all of these, there are sad things that happen and there are anxiety-inducing things that happen, but each of these characters feels very much like a human being, like a reasoning human being. They are very much personified. I loved it. It is about a group of mice who must defend their medieval abbey, Redwall, from this terrible, terrible rodent, this rat, and his hordes who have decided that they want to have Redwall. And they have to defend and they go to battle. But there's also this prophecy and this little mouse who doesn't feel really like it's his job. He doesn't feel like the chosen one, but of course he is the chosen one. And it's just really, really wonderful. It's a beautiful, heartening, uplifting, adventurous story, and I really enjoyed it. I think there are something like 27 books or something like that in the series. I am wanting to pick up the next one. I will probably just, they feel like they're going to read kind of like standalones, like companions maybe, and over the course of the time it may, I don't know, I'll have to see, it may continue or progress certain storylines forward. But at the moment, from what I feel and sense, they can almost each be read as a standalone. So probably what I will do is, in order, listen to them, get them from Libby. And the ones that I really love, I'll purchase used copies of. I am very happy that I have a copy of this, but I did use my ears more than my eyes when I was reading this. The next thing that I finished was this one. So short and so powerful. This is Gary Lightbody's memoir, The Forest is the Path. This is a memoir about grief and making an album and fear and regret and love and forgiveness and moving forward and healing. It's so small and it's so beautiful. When you ask a musician, a lyricist, a brilliant lyricist to write a memoir, you're going to get just absolute gold. And I loved this. So Gary Lightbody is the lead singer of the band Snow Patrol. And they just released, in 2024, they just released their first album in, I believe, 15 years. And I've always loved Snow Patrol. I've always been obsessed with them. I went to my first Snow Patrol concert in 2006 before they were featured on Grey's Anatomy. In fact, it might have been the same month that they were featured on Grey's Anatomy that I went. But then they blew up after that. I have loved Gary Lightbody since before Snow Patrol when he was in the reindeer section. If you don't know the reindeer section, find them. It's more Snow Patrol, but it's not Snow Patrol. Yeah, I love Snow Patrol, Gary Lightbody. I have often referred to him as my voice husband. I would marry his voice in an instant. I don't know about the person, but I would marry his voice in an instant. And he just writes lyrics that speak to me. They just speak to me. And so this spoke to me, and I laughed and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried, because although he's writing about losing his father and the difficult relationship he had with his father and how much he loved and adored his father, it is ultimately the way that he is able to navigate it is ultimately applicable to any loss that you may have experienced. And we have all experienced a multitude of losses. And so he has this way of kind of just writing about grief. He's telling a very specific story, but it's a very universal story. And it's just gorgeous. And I will go back to it again and again and again. When I put it back on my shelf, it's going to live on my shelf next to When Breath Becomes Air and This Ordinary Stardust, both of which were two books on grief that I just loved last year. Loved grief and loss. And I've not had and died of brain cancer, but I can still really relate to When Breath Becomes Air. And I have not lost a spouse or almost a child to brain cancer, or lung cancer. When Breath Becomes Air is lung cancer, but the other is brain cancer. And I have not done that, but I could still really, really relate to both of those authors and both of those books. And the same is true here. I think that's how you know the mark of a really good memoir, when you learn about this other person's story and experience, but also it means something to you for you personally. I love that. Oh, I think the next thing that I read was Medea by Euripides. I had never read Euripides, and then in 2 weeks I read 2 Euripides. I have read 2 by Euripides now. We'll talk about the other one in a moment. I read Medea, and this was the translation by Robin Robertson, and I did not enjoy it. There are definitely some things in here. Let me see if I can find a few quotes. I've often wondered about Medea as a story, because so many times people have compared Lady Macbeth and Medea, in that there are these two very strong women who are willing to be vengeful, willing to take something like that into their own hands. But they are, and I suppose they are both wronged in a certain way, but two very different ways. I really, though, feel like I don't know if I can say this because, I mean, I can say it, but I don't know if it's true. Because what I'm about to say is that I like Lady Macbeth more as a character in her story, as like her motivations, all of those things, I just appreciate more. But maybe I can't say that because maybe I'm just biased because I have spent so many decades with her. And this was my first time meeting Medea. So, Medea, I haven't yet read Jason and the Argonauts. I have it on my shelf over there, and I meant to read it last year, but I didn't. So I don't know the whole details of the Golden Fleece, but she's married to Jason, and I guess she helps Jason. She's of a different culture, and she's kind of considered witchy and otherworldly, and I guess she helps Jason. I don't know if this happens in Jason and the Argonauts or Jason's Golden Fleece or whatever, but it's mentioned in here that she helps him to achieve this level of leadership and authority and social status. And so he marries her. I guess they have like a whirlwind Bonnie and Clyde type romance. But in her helping him, she ostracizes herself from her own family and all of her friends in her own country. And so at the beginning of Medea, we learn that Jason has left her and their two sons for a younger woman who is a princess. And he's calling it a political move, but really, he's calling it a political move and saying, just accept her into our life. I still love you, and I will do right by our sons, of course. In fact, that's why I'm marrying her, so I can do right by our sons. And maybe that's logical and grounded in that time period, but what Medea is feeling is betrayal and a broken marriage and having been used and abandoned, and that she probably rightly predicts that if they have children, he'll abandon his two sons with her. And Jason's like, no, I love you guys too. I just want this sweet young thing that's going to make me a king. And, it's odd the way he's written. You understand him and you really despise him the whole time. And Medea, you understand her I understood her to a certain extent. She's very angry at him. She's dealing with a lot of emotions, and her emotions are coming out as rage. And maybe that's the most interesting thing about her, is that she is not manifesting as poor broken me, my poor broken marriage, my poor boys. There is no self-pity here at all. It is just offended rage. And everyone is afraid of her. Nobody wants to cross her path, even people who love her, and everybody is very, very concerned about what she might do, and for good reason, because what she does is really, really terrible. Now, this was written in 450 BC or 375 BC or something like that. I think I can give spoilers. I hope. But I didn't know going into it. I don't know how I didn't know, but I didn't know going into it. So maybe you don't know either. So if you don't want a spoiler, I'll just hold this up until I'm done. And when I put it down, you can come back or turn the volume back up. So if you don't want a spoiler, turn your volume down now. But she decides that she's not going to kill Jason for vengeance. She's going to kill his bride, and she's going to kill his two sons, her two sons that she loves. And she's going to do it. She's going to do it herself. She's going to kill them. They're little. They're not grown up. They're little. So she uses her witchy powers to have the two boys with Jason deliver some some jewelry, a crown, and it's laced with poison, and the girl puts it on her head, and then she just like burns and dies, and her father, the king, sees it and grabs hold of her, but the poison seeps into him too, and he burns and dies as well. So Jason, very angry, comes to her house to try and, I don't know, talk to her. He's angry, of course. I guess I think he wants to take the kids. And she has already killed them. It happens off stage. She goes into their room and you can hear, like, you can hear them be killed. I read this, but in this, you can hear them be killed. There are lines. And by the time he gets there, she's in a chariot that's gonna fly, kind of like Grease. But she's got her 2 dead sons hanging over the side, and she's gonna fly off to safety in this other kingdom with this other really messed up dude. That's Medea. Hi. Welcome back, in case you had muted. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. The chorus in this was interesting. I think a lot of what I circled, you can see the pencil mark around that, were lines from the chorus. This one says, "Did you hear that, Zeus, sun and earth? Did you hear that creature's dreadful cry? You are rash, woman. It is just as wrong for you to desire the bed of death as it is for Jason to thresh in his bed of desire. Why hurry, death? The marriage is over. Let it rest. Let Zeus advance your cause and save your heart." So just accept it. Leave it alone, Jason's betrayal, and don't long for your own death, which she barely does. She has some very, very long soliloquies in this, very long. But at one point she says, "This blow, when it came from nowhere, knocking me down, crushing my faith in all that's good and kind. I am lost and foundering. The joy has gone from my life, and I see no reason now to carry on. My husband, my companion, the man I thought I knew so well, in whom I'd invested everything, has revealed himself to be the most contemptible of men." I agree, Medea. I agree. She goes on and says, "When a man's bored with what he has at home, he goes elsewhere, finds someone else to amuse him. The woman must wait, for she is allowed to look at one face. The woman must wait, for she is allowed to look at one face only, his. Men tell us that we are lucky to live safe at home, while they take up their spears and go to war. Well, that's a lie. I'd sooner stand behind a shield three times in battle than give birth once." She says, "My reputation, yet again, it goes before me like a curse. My father should never have allowed me an education, never raised me to be intelligent. Those who are out of the ordinary attract jealousy and bitterness. If you try to bring new wisdom to fools, the fools are furious. If your mind matches the minds of the city's intellectuals, then they're threatened. But you, Creon, you are afraid." And along the side, I made a little reference to Daisy Buchanan in The Great Gatsby when she says she wanted her daughter to be a pretty little fool. And that's pretty much it. Like, it's better to be a pretty little fool than to be smarter than the men around you. Another quote I've got here, "And being women, barred by birth from the noble deeds of men, we have mastered the art of manipulation to become the most skillful architects of..." To which the chorus responds in a very worried fashion, "The sacred river water flows uphill, the laws of nature and of humans all reversed. Now we see men dissemble, twist their words, and break their holy vows, so it must follow soon that women will have rights, that women, not men, are the ones who hold in high repute. No more gossip and rumor to keep us in check. The natural order has turned around." The natural order. Oh, Jason. This one. "However, in spite of this, I will not fail my loved ones. I come here, woman, still thinking about your interests. You and the children will not go into exile, penniless or in need of anything. Banishment brings many hardships, I imagine. I want you to know that whatever hatred you feel for me, I could never bear you any malice." This is in his "I'm doing this all for you, babe" speech. Yeah, believe me, this is not about another woman. This royal marriage, as I've said before, was for you and the children. The boys would have princes for brothers, and everyone would be safe. What perilous safety, says Medea. I pray I never reach it, or find this prosperity that would empty my heart. Jason, pray for something wiser. Pray instead for a less pessimistic view of life, not to find pain in what is pleasure, not to feel unlucky when you're not. I didn't like this, and yet also found it incredibly intriguing. Yeah. The next thing I read so many little tiny ones in a row, but the next one that I read was The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett, and I read this for Books Love Everyone book group, so I'm not going to say much about it now. We are having our discussion 1 week from the day that I'm recording this, so that's exciting. But I had to stop and think for a second. I was like, was that supposed to happen today? No, that was not supposed to happen today, which is a very good thing because I would have missed it. We are going to talk about this in a week, so I won't talk about it here right now. The next thing I finished was Mandy and the Secret Tunnel, and this is by, why am I having a hard time? Lois Gladys Lepard. Lois Gladys Lepard. And I read this whole series as a kid, and I remember absolutely having the best time reading this series. And as I was reading it this time, I was shocked and appalled. Really shocked and appalled about several different things. For one thing, although by the end you can infer a Christian message based on grace and faith and love, the loudest voices in this speaking about, this is a Christian fiction, and the loudest voices in this speaking about Christianity are speaking about a very, very works-based religion, and they speak most clearly and directly. And in order to find what the author is actually kind of showing through the character, what the character is actually learning about faith and hope and love, is so gently shown in comparison that as a child, I think that you would only really see and hear this hugely like, you better work sort of way to salvation. And it really just rubbed me the wrong way. As an adult, I can read past it or around it or through it or see the layer that is there. But as a child, or if I had a child, I wouldn't mind them reading this, but I would not let them read it without great amounts of discussion. The other thing that really bothers me right now is the depictions of people of color. There are some Black characters in the 1800s in North Carolina, and they are depicted as just really happy in their, it's not enslavement, they are not slaves, but they are the lowest class possible and treated really as such. And they're real happy about it in the book. And I don't like this depiction at all. The other issue that I have right now, and I'm saying right now because it's very early on in the series, and I'm hoping that we have enough time, because it's a very shallow story. It's very shallow. The whole thing could probably be told to you in 2 pages. But there's a lot of mystery and character development and things like that. But for the most part, this is an incredibly simple story. And she learns in this book that she has some Cherokee ancestry, and that this Cherokee man who her father had always been friends with and had referred to as Uncle Ned, although not blood relation, knew her father's mother, who was a Cherokee woman. And I am great with all of this part of the storyline. It's fine. What I'm not great with is the depiction of Uncle Ned. He is, things I like, he is very astute, very kind, very caring, very devoted, devoted is not the word I want. He's been very loyal and honest and lovely. In so many ways, he is a lovely human being who Mandy needs. And he helps her. The problem is that he only exists in this story to help her. So far, he has not been fleshed out as a full human being in any way, shape, or form. Right now, he's just a character plot. And his heritage is necessary for his ability to move quietly, physically through the book, basically. And so I am concerned where this might go. The books were written in the 80s, and I do feel even for the 80s, they feel pretty controversial, even for the 80s, I think. So I am going to continue reading because they are quick reads, they are nostalgic reads, and I'm hoping that as the story progresses and we spend more time with these characters, because they will all be there again in the next book, that they get more depth. Because like I said, this is a very shallow book. And so maybe over the course, there's 40 books in the series. So maybe over the course of the books, the characters get more depth and are handled with more historical accuracy and reality and respect than they are being treated right now. Even Mandy herself, she's been raised in a very financially restricted environment. She's very poor. And that also is reflected badly in her, not her character, but the way that she sees herself, really. And so there's just so many things in this book that are taken for granted that will be the default belief system of the reader, that it just felt kind of uncomfortable sometimes. And so, yeah, again, I'm going to keep reading. We'll see how it goes. But if I'm not seeing any more depth or development of character, I will probably stop reading these. And the next thing I read was actually 3 things in one, and that is the Oristya. This is an Oristya, not the Oristya, and I can now explain the difference. This is a trilogy of plays that are interconnected. The Oristya were all written by Aeschylus. This Anne Oristya is pulled together by a woman named Anne Carson, who is a poet and a translator. She has done some great stuff. She's also done some stuff I absolutely hated, like, was it The Story of Red, which I read a couple of years ago, which I really disliked so intensely. But this is good. This is Anne Oristya, though. So she's pulled together Agamemnon by Aeschylus, which would be in the Oristya. But then she's chosen Electra by Sophocles as the second play, as opposed to The Libation Bringers. Is that what it's called? The Libation... I think it's the Libation Bringers, which would have been by Aeschylus. And then she has ended it with Orestes by Euripides. And I don't remember what it would have been, but it would have been by Aeschylus. The Oristya is different in the 3 plays that it is sharing, but not in the story that it's sharing. And the major difference, I believe, is that Anne Carson has chosen 3 stories that are interconnected, character-wise, theme-wise, event-wise, to tell a story in 3 parts. but she's taken 3 different plays by 3 different authors from 3 different, though close and affiliated, eras. And so we get kind of a larger perspective, and definitely alterations in the way and the style in which these plays are being told. So this was my second Euripides with Orestes, and I'm gonna say, like, I've read a lot of Sophocles. So Sophocles felt familiar to me in some ways, although Anne Carson puts her own spin on it for sure, with her translation. But Agamemnon was my favorite of these. Electra is a wild, like, storm of a ride and such an interesting play, although she's a little too, like, unhinged for me to enjoy. And then the Euripides is my least favorite. It was, like, short and sparse and strange. There's, like, this whole fight over an urn. There's just a lot of stuff in this that I found very odd. I kept having to go and, because I just don't have the context, so I kept having to go and look things up, because I just haven't done much with Greek tragedy outside of Sophocles. And for that, it's been Antigone. I've read a lot of Sophocles because of a drama class that I took in college, my first year. So I've read a lot of Antigone. I mean, I've read a lot of Sophocles, but the other 2 I had never read before, and I just don't know much outside of, like, Antigone and Oedipus, and I just don't know much outside of the handful of stories that he wrote that I've read about Greek tragedy. Or really mythology all that much. Like, I know the big players, but when they get down into, like, the different monsters and the hugely incestuous relationships, like marriages and family relations in this, it's wild. I had to look up so many things and went down so many rabbit trails just to try and figure out, why are these people mad at each other? Why are these people killing each other? What is going on? Who ate what? Who ate who? And I found it all very disturbing and also incredibly intriguing and very poetic. And I loved it. It's so disturbing. And I loved it. My least favorite of the 3 Greek tragedy authors I've read so far this year is definitely Euripides. I don't feel like I want to read any more Euripides. I don't like his take on it. In here, in her introduction, she has an introduction to each one. And in her introduction, she says somebody refers to him as the saddest clown. Let me see if I can find that, actually, so I get it right. Oh, maybe I didn't mark it. Oh, maybe I translated it as the saddest clown. So this is what I found. I didn't mark it, but this is what I found. It says, there is another way to read Euripides, which is to forget seriousness and see him as just having a good time in the theater, creating sensation and spectacle, throwing the pieces up in the air and letting them fall. To judge from some sentences in Poetics, this was Aristotle's view. Still, Aristotle insists that whatever the ineptitude of his stagecraft, Euripides is it looks like tragic potatoes. That's what it looks like. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Do you see that word right there? Doesn't that look like the big all caps word? Doesn't that look like tragic potatoes? So tragic potatoes. He's tragic potatoes. That is translated as the most tragic of the Greek poets. A clown, but a dark one. And somehow I turned that in my mind into the saddest clown. Maybe it says the saddest clown somewhere else above, because I don't know why I would have thought of that. Now I feel like I need to reread this whole thing. Anyway, let's see. W.H. Auden, although he is talking about Shakespeare, seems to capture exactly how it feels to read or watch Euripides, which I don't. Yeah, I guess my brain just made up that whole saddest clown thing. but I liked it. I liked it. Yeah, this whole collection read together as one with all of the extra hunting and searching. I mean, look at this. I had to write like whole like trees of life here. We've got son of Thistes. Thistes married Pelopia, his own daughter. Aegisthus murdered Atreus. He is driven from power by Agamemnon, our Atreus' son. He is the sole surviving son when Atreus kills Thrystus' kids and feeds them to him. I just have these all through here, though. Like, just, I'm constantly having to try and remind myself or know who is who and what is what. Or just notes written all along the side here. This is the Furies. I had to find out who the Furies were. Do you know how the Furies were made? That's a wild story, which I will refrain from telling here, which I now know. Yeah, this is fun stuff. That's fun stuff. It's a weird, weird world, though. And that is all I will talk about today. I have read more, but that is all I'm going to talk about today. I've been here for a while, and we need to eat some lunch. I need to get that out of the oven, and then I have some things we need to do. So I'll check in with another stack, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Soon. I'll check in with another stack. Get you all caught up. Oh no, you guys, it's February 2nd. I just got home from work and I need to recap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books. I thought I was doing so much better, but apparently I'm not. Today has been a crazy day, you guys. I woke up at like 5:50 or something, which is way earlier than I need to wake up. But I got up anyway, and I thought, okay, great, I'll have a slower morning. But somehow the morning just disappeared, and I still left the house late. And I'm very, very rarely late. And then I got to school and was immediately asked, can you cover C block? I teach A block and B block. That means that I had a class all day long today, and it's been a million years since that has been the case. And I was surprise observed for a class that on the best of days has 8 people in it, and today had only 6. It went fine. When my observer left, my administrator left, one of the girls leaned forward and went, "Oh, Miss Garris, you were so natural." So cute. Yeah. Anyway, I think it went fine. We have to meet about it, have a post-observation conference on Thursday. So we'll find out how they thought it went. I thought it went fine. You know, it's always hard to be like on and be like a total professional teacher, and not just like a a tutor type person when you have a class that small. So yeah, I was maybe not on my most like professional level, but I was on a very high teacher level. So we'll see how they feel. I'm not usually observed by this particular person. And so it hit different, always does. Anyway, that happened. Plus I taught all day and, then I got home and I thought, you know what? We have really got to get this video out. But for some reason, I let checking in about books just stack up again. I don't know what it is. I so prefer doing it this way than I sit down at the end of the month with 21 books. But at the same time, if I don't check in, then it ends up still being a sit down at the end of the month with 21 books. So let's just do this. So the next book I read and finished, I had the book for it. I got it from Book of the Month and I read it for my book club, but I passed it on. I work with a person who is in my book club. You don't need to know the history of my book club. I was about to go into a long story. You don't need to know. I was talking about the book at work with somebody, and another somebody overheard us talking about the book, and he asked if he could borrow it. And so, or maybe I just said I would give it to him. I might have actually done that. I think that's actually how it happened. I think I was like, oh, I'll just give it to you. You could read it. Anyway, so I have passed on the book to him. And we have once passed in the hall. I very rarely see him. And we've once passed in the hall since I gave him the book. And he was like, yeah, I've been reading the book. It's interesting. Which is higher praise than I felt for it. You've seen a picture of it. I've put a picture up here, I'm sure already. But it was Wild Dark Shore by, I don't remember who, same woman who wrote Migration. And I read this for my In Real Life book club and did not enjoy it at all. But I also didn't enjoy Migration by this author. And I went into it kind of thinking maybe the murder mystery aspect of it will outweigh the climate change fiction of it, which I don't really enjoy very much at all. If I'm going to read something about climate change, just give me facts. That's what I want. I don't want to fictionalize and add like levels of empathy to it. Not that we don't need to empathize, but like I don't want to feel the intellectual severity of the situation and the emotional severity at the same time. So I don't really want to read climate fiction. Just like I don't want to read dystopian fiction anymore, really, unless it is imagining the world, unless it's like Ray Bradbury or Lois Lowry, like things that are already, we're well past the time in which those stories are set. I'm just, the end of the world feels too imminent. The, climate change feels too imminent, and I just want facts. I don't want the emotion tied to it. And so I would never have chosen to read this book on my own. And I read it. And yeah, that's all I want to say, because if you don't have anything nice to say, you probably shouldn't say it. It just wasn't the book for me. And also, even for what it was, I just don't think that she pulled off what she wanted to pull off. There were so many like in your face allegory elements. I put that in quotation marks, like happy bunnies everywhere, because it just wasn't, it wasn't allegorical because it was so very clearly in your face. Like, just say it. Just say it. Don't try to tell me a story. That's all I will say about this. Hopefully I will edit this and clean it up a little bit. I don't have positive thoughts about this book. I gave it 2 stars. I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for my book club. Then the next thing that I finished was a reread of 84 Charing Cross Road for Books Love Everyone. And then we got together and we talked about this and the other book for Books Love Everyone that I've already talked about here a little bit. I usually don't say much because I do a dedicated review, a dedicated wrap up, and that is the same here. This was a reread. A lot of people read 84 Charing Cross Road in January. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it if you're a regular BookTube watcher, but I will have a wrap up kind of talking about the things that we talked about during our Zoom meeting and just the general praise that everyone had for both books that we talked about. Then, oh, you can really see all the dog hair. Then I read Antigone and Oedipus Rex. I reread Antigone and I read Oedipus Rex, and I did not read Electra again because I'd already read Electra. I think I already talked about that. I should have, because I've already wrapped up that book. These were what you'd think they are. I've read a lot of Sophocles, and a lot, relatively speaking, in comparison to other Greek playwrights. And he is what I think Greek plays are. I think that the Oresteia, as I'm probably saying that wrong, as translated by Anne Carson, was something that was fresh and unique for me. And the Medea is such a ride. And I wasn't familiar with the story enough to realize like how it hit. I just feel like that gave it more interesting context for me. Plus they were the ones that I first read. I get really excited about them, had a great time. And by the time I got to Oedipus and a reread of Antigone, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is familiar. I've been here before. And it wasn't infused with that same spark that the reading of the others was earlier this month. I then finished a reread of Beezus and Ramona by Beverly Cleary. And I can't even tell you when was the last time that I actually read this. I was probably less than 10 years old the last time I read this. And revisiting it was both surprising and nostalgic. Like I didn't remember what was in this book as opposed to the other book. Like certain Ramona stories just kind of stand out to me, and I remember them kind of all as one continuous book. There were a lot of things in here, like the time that Ramona invites all of her friends over for a party but doesn't tell her mom. And then all of a sudden all these parents are dropping all these kids off, all these toddlers off at the home, and she suddenly has to host on this big rainy day. I had no memory of that whatsoever, probably because it's so much from Mom and Beezus' perspective, and I was little. And so I was probably not thinking about the impact that had on the adults in the house. It's really funny to read them from an adult perspective because I have so much more sympathy and patience for Ramona, so much more empathy for Beezus, so much love for these parents because, oh my goodness, their child is a wild card. I also forgot about and loved her pet lizard, her imaginary friend lizard that she drags around with a collar, like it's just an empty collar on a leash with nothing in it. I just love those like true to life little weird things, little weirds. As the kids have pointed out in Jane Eyre, she keeps talking about Jane's and Rochester's freaks, like all their little freaks. So I love the little freaks here because they're real. They're very real. I followed that up with a male equivalent written decades later. This is Judy Blume's Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, and I loved this so much. I read this book a million times when I was a kid and talked about it with family and remembered it so much. I remembered whole lines from this book as I was rereading it. And I don't think I've read it as an adult or even as a teen. I think that I stopped reading it probably when I was 11 or 12. But I had read it so many times. It was so ingrained in my head that so much of it came back in this whoosh of nostalgia. And it was a delight, and I still laugh out loud. There are definitely things in it that don't age perfectly. For example, There is the threat of a spanking. There is actually off page a spanking given. Like things like that would never happen nowadays. And I still just completely think that this book is absolutely worth the read. It's so funny. When the mother tells the boy, what's the boy's name? Peter. When the mother tells the boy to stand on his head so that Fudge will eat. I was like, I get it, kid. I was the oldest. I was the older sibling of two. I get it, Peter. Peter will grow up to be very good friends with his brother, and that is our case as well. But I felt empathy for Peter, and Fudge, I think, is more frustrating to me than Ramona, because Ramona does what she does. There are very clear boundaries set for her, and, she's not allowed to get away with much, even though she does a lot of things. But they're generally fairly innocent things, or things that she doesn't anticipate the outcome of. She doesn't do them to be funny. She does them because they seem logical to her. For example, when she puts Ribsy in Henry and Ribsy fame, when she puts Ribsy in the bathroom and the dog accidentally locks the bathroom door, she puts the dog in the bathroom because she puts the dog in a timeout because the dog stole her cookies, right? The adults and the older children in the mix jump to conclusions that, oh, she's just being ornery or getting into trouble. But the child, was following logic according to how she understood logic, right? And yes, it's frustrating, and yes, it causes some troubles and whatever, but there are reasons and boundaries and expectations for the child. Whereas with Fudge, it's more like this child just runs wild, and then when it gets too far, people come in and try and stop it. And poor Peter is there the whole time, like the voice of reason, going, can't you anticipate what's going to happen here? And then boom, it happens. And then everybody has to scramble to try and fix it. When in reality, you could have just put more boundaries, given more expectations, had more follow through, more consequence, or more accountability. So it feels different. And I appreciate the Ramona books so much more now, but at the same time, the Fudge books make me laugh so much. If I were a parent, I think I would probably let my children read the Ramona books before I would let them read the Fudge books. But I love the Fudge books. Then I listened to this and looked at the beautiful color illustrations. This was a umpteenth time reread for me. I do love this one. It is maybe my least favorite of all of the books in this series because it's so episodic. I enjoy when we get older in the Laura Ingalls Wilder world, and she's taking on more responsibility, and the story feels more linear and progressive. It is a linear timeline in Little House in the Big Woods, but it's obviously written for much smaller children, and it was not necessarily conceived to be the 9 books that it turns out to be at that point. At that point, it was maybe more conceived to be a standalone, and it is a standalone that is simply a set of remembrances, set in a year, around the year. And it's fine and beautiful for what it is. It's absolutely beautiful for what it is. There's really wonderful storytelling in it, really great writing for kids. Even if you don't like some of the content, it's really great writing. And it also feels a little slow at times to me. Like I said, I just really wait for the moment when we get to start getting real deep into a narrative that's going to progress over multiple books. And yeah, that's a good time for me. I read this one. I read Frederick Bachman's My Friends. This was my first 12 and 12 recommendation. My friend Brent recommended this. In fact, he recommended this before I even put out a call for 12 and 12. He sent me a message. We don't live in the same place, in the same state. He sent me a message saying that he'd read a book and he really, really wanted everyone that he loves to read this book, everyone he knows to read this book. And so he'd already recommended it to multiple people. And then he was like, you know what? I want to recommend it to you for your 12 and 12. And I was like, I'm not even asking for that for weeks. And he was like, okay, but I'm recommending it. I said I would put it first. And so I did. And so I read it first. And here is the thing. I don't like Fredrik Backman. I know you know. If you've been around for a while, you know that I talk about how I don't appreciate being emotionally manipulated by authors. And I usually use him as my prime example. And so when Brent said, I want you to read the new Fredrik Backman, I was like, okay. For you, I'll do it. And it's my first favorite read of the year. No, that's not true. Gavin and Stacey, When Gavin Met Stacey. And it's my first favorite fiction read of the year. Gavin and Stacey and The Forest is the Path were definitely my two first favorite reads of the year. But Fredrik Backman's My Friends was wonderful. I've heard some people say, who really love him, that this is the best book that he's written. And I would agree because it's the only one I like. But also, it's just a really great story. It's really solid. Does it have some emotional manipulation? Absolutely, it does. You know, the other one that I like by him, which has the same kind of tone, is Britt Marie was here. I really liked Britt Marie, and I really liked My Friends. I really, really liked My Friends. I'm putting it on my favorite reads of the year stack over on my mantle. It's going to live there all year long until I do my favorite reads of the year video. I don't think it's going to get favorite read of the year, like number one favorite read. I don't think it's there, but I really enjoyed it. And I think about that group of friends and those characters a lot since I finished the book. There's just something really lovely about it. And even if you don't think you're a Fredrik Backman fan, I would say read My Friends. Yeah, if he writes more books, more standalone books like that, I might read more of him. Who knows? Okay, what was this? Oh, the next book I read, because I just have a stand-in, of The Beautiful Rainbow Rowell. Fangirl, which I didn't get to reading yet. But I had it just sitting there as a stand-in to remind me. So the next thing that I read was a book that I had from Libby. I'd had it on hold for 18 weeks. 18! And the hold finally came in. And so I just kind of dropped everything and listened to it. I ended up only taking like a day and a half to listen to it. Like on 2 times speed, it was like 5.5 hours or something. And I spent a couple of hours on a couple of days listening. Hi, Lola. And and that was We Used to Live Here by, I have absolutely no idea, but I'll put the picture right here and you can, I have something maybe bit me or something. I'll put the book right here, the picture here. This was so much fun. I loved this. This was super fun. It had House of Leaf vibes a little bit, but so much better. Enjoyable, actually. Enjoyable as opposed to House of Leaves. It had like Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibes, which is super fun. It is, I mean, I haven't given you basic premise for almost any of these because I'm just trying to get through this so I can get this video out. If you want to know more specific thoughts about most of these books, that will be in my individual reviews on Bookstagram. So you could go there if you want to know more specific thoughts about any of these, except for the ones that I read for Books Love Everyone. And a video for that's coming out on Thursday. So I I'm gonna zoom. I'm just gonna zoom through this because I still have a big stack over there and I need to finish this video, get it out, and eat some dinner and take a rest because it's been a day. Not a bad day, just a really big day. So we used to live here. Yeah, it really got me because it hit some things that I just kind of like hold a fear for anyway, like this that monkey that my dad had one of those from his childhood, and so in my childhood he had one, like one of those mechanical cymbal monkeys, but he had the one with the like the traditional one, and in this book there's like this whole brand of them, like an off brand that nobody thinks actually existed except for the kids that actually had them. So there's that. And there's this idea that like the universe keeps kind of altering or changing. The house keeps altering and changing. There's this old man in the woods in this cabin who tells her that these people who are in her house, that's not what they really look like. Just this idea that someone might change. Like I used to have this fear that like maybe someone I know is talking on the phone and then they would turn to me and they would be totally different from the person that I thought they were. Like they were in the same body, but like who they were was different. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that fear is kind of captured, irrational fear is kind of captured in this book. You know, there's all sorts of misdirections, just like the house changes and the town changes and the whole universe changes, really. There are misdirections in the story, which change how you're viewing the story. It was really fun. Is it outstanding writing? No, of course not. Am I ever going to want to read it again? Probably not. But for what I got out of it for this one read, it was just a fun ride. And sometimes that's what you want a book to be. A lot of the time, that's what you want a book to be. And this definitely was that for me. I probably won't purchase it unless I would definitely grab it to put on my shelf if I saw it in a little free library, but probably not going to buy it. But I will definitely get from the library the new book out by this author. I just think it was good twists. Is it like a Chuck Wendig love for me? No, not at all. But it does kind of feel Chuck Wendig-ish. And I will probably continue to enjoy this author's books if I can remember their name ever. But I probably will continue to enjoy this author's books for many books to come. It was a good call, and I understand why people kept it from me for 18 weeks. I reread The Beatrice Prophecy. I'm very glad I did. I love Kate Camillo's writing when she's not making me cry. She can emotionally manipulate me because the stories that she's telling aren't intending to make me cry. She just knows how to tell a story that will make me cry. I don't cry for this one though, not The Beatrice Prophecy. This one is funny, laugh out loud funny, but it's also, I think, really timely. It's really timely. There's this prophecy about this girl who can save the world, and people want to kill her because of it. And she takes refuge, or she's given refuge by a monk who doesn't necessarily know who she is right away. He's going to give her refuge anyway, but then he does realize who she is. And there's an angry goat. That's maybe the absolute worst synopsis of that book ever. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought that there was so much in it about, the importance of overcoming evil, the importance of joy in overcoming evil, the importance of community in overcoming evil. If you're sensing a theme here, maybe because there was a theme here, of what drew me to that book. I thought it was excellent. Okay. Oh, we're getting there. I reread The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis in this color version. I listened to it and looked through at the color images, and that is such a fun installment. in the Chronicles of Narnia. The events in it, the book itself was published, I don't know when, deeper into the series, but the events in it chronologically take place first. So it actually starts by assuming that you've heard other stories in the Narnia world, and then it dives into this kind of like origin story. And I think it's maybe like one of my top 3 favorites in the Chronicles of Narnia. If you haven't read that, The Magician's Nephew, highly recommend. It is, Lola, let's not chew on the book, please. Can we maybe not chew on the book? Is that a weird idea? She agrees. She's not going to chew on the book. Yeah. Hello. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the snuffleupa kisses. That's what I call it when she sniffles in my ear. Snuffleupa kisses. But it's a fun one. With the whole tree of life aspect, these silver apples, super fun, super fun. I finally finished this one. I started this in December, put it down, picked it back up, put it down, picked it back up, put it down, finally picked it back up again and finished it. And I don't know why it was so hard, because I actually really did enjoy it, which is maybe unbelievable, knowing how often I put it down and walked away from it without really caring. It wasn't compulsive in any way, obviously, but it was very interesting. So she is the daughter of a witch, and for reasons, political reasons and other reasons, her mother is targeted and is assassinated by a dagger. She's a flame, he's a dagger. And he is supposed to assassinate her, but he, of course, falls in love with her, and that complicates things. He's trained to do his duty and do what he's told, and believes firmly that no one who is marked for assassination is a good person, can possibly be a good person, and that the one who is giving these orders for assassination would never do something wrong. And so he then gets, too close to the flame to realize that, or not to realize, he gets too close to the flame to not realize that maybe he's been believing a lie all this time. Maybe he's been believing the wrong person. There is a sequel to this, and I don't know if it's a direct sequel, but it's set in the same world. And I will definitely read it at some point. I can get it from Book of the Month at some point when I'm ready. I really did enjoy it. I really do think those characters are going to stick with me. I really don't know why it was such a start and stop read for me, but yeah, I'll recommend it to kids. I recommend it to you. I thought it was very enjoyable. I finished my reread of Sophie Kinsella's first book in her Shopaholic series, Confession of a Shopaholic. This is one of my favorites in this series. There will definitely come some that I am just like, I'm reading this because I love Sophie Kinsella. I hate this book. There will definitely come some near the end. Not the last one. The last one is maybe my favorite in the series, but there will come some that are difficult for me to get through. But this is not one of them. This is pure delight. When she's first introducing this character of Becky Bloomwood to you, and you're first learning who she is and how she became the shopaholic that she is and how she overcomes that. And when you first meet Luke Brandon, it is just one of the best little love stories ever written, I think. It's so lovable. Becky Bloomwood is a hot mess in all the right ways, and she's so relatable, even if you don't have a shopping problem. Like, she's just a relatable human being. And yeah, I'm really glad that I'm revisiting these, and I'm very thankful that Sophie Kinsella wrote all the millions of books that she wrote so that we can continue to enjoy them even after she is gone. Yeah. Hey, I completely forgot to do this one. I already changed it on my pajamas, but I'm gonna do this anyway. I completely forgot to talk about The Black Feathers. The Black Feathers is a Victorian book. Think like, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre sort of feeling. It's about a woman who you learn very early on that she had a child and that child was taken away from her. She misses that child greatly, but she has had the opportunity, even though she was this unmarried woman and had this mystery child, who doesn't remain a mystery forever, but had this mystery child. You learn that she has still had the opportunity to marry somebody, because this man just lost his first wife and their son. And all he wants from her is not love or anything like that, just like some mutual respect and an heir. And so on their honeymoon, before we even get into the story, they have been traveling around the continent, and over the course of those many months, like maybe a year and a half or something, they also have their first child, and it's a boy. And so he's pleased. She's fulfilled her end of the bargain, and now they just have to remain civilly married to each other for the rest of their lives. And she arrives at his family home, meets his sister. His sister is a spiritualist. She runs these seances. She reads tarot cards. She also does taxidermy. And our main woman, the wife, she has grown up in an overly religious home with a father who's a minister who is not a good kind of minister. And so she is just out of repulsion to that part of her childhood. She's completely willing to just accept that that is what this woman is doing, even though in her mind and heart, she doesn't really believe in it, but things start happening. There's some weird stuff that happens in this book. And, you can think about Bertha Mason and Rebecca and those sorts of things. Those vibes are given. I won't tell you whether or not they pan out or anything like that, but those vibes are definitely given. I really enjoyed this. There was no audio for this, and so I had to read it with my own two little eyes. And I chose to keep this book at school for the majority of the month and just read it in little spurts, little bits and pieces here and there when I could. And it consistently kept me creeped out, even though I kept coming out of it and couldn't spend much time in it, not like much elongated time in it. It really sufficiently creeped me out in broad daylight at work multiple times. So I think that I will definitely reread this one, even though I know the twists and turns. I definitely think I would reread this one, and I definitely want to read more by this author, who is something Netley? Rebecca Netley. I think she wrote something called The Nesting, which you may or may not have heard of. I definitely want to read more by this author. It is a ride, and it's just the kind of ride I like to take. So back to wrapping up me, who is not in her pajamas. Okay, this is going to be the one, I finished this most recently, and it's going to be the one that I know the most about, and I want to tell you the most about because I just adored this book. It's a fluffer, but it's going on my favorite books of the year stack. This is Wish I Were Here by Melissa Weisner. And it is, on the surface, the story of a woman who is she's very conscientious of being very put together because she grew up with kind of like a flake for a dad, a single parent flake. And when I say that, I mean like he took her to Burning Man a lot. Not that everybody who goes to Burning Man is a flake. He took her to Burning Man a lot. He is a professional clown. He had a hard time paying bills on time. Half an hour late was on time to him. these sorts of things. And they moved a lot. They moved a lot. And so as an adult, she has become the exact opposite of that. She's a mathematician. She, half an hour early, is late. She is on top of it being everything. And she prides herself on this. She has a new job, and on the morning that she's going to that new job, she's going to be like an assistant professor or something at a university. Everything falls apart for her. Everything falls apart, and she has to accept help from the community. And in reality, nothing has fallen apart. It's just that things are a little bit out of her control. But when she gets there, she thinks everything is all good. But when she gets there and she starts to register to go to the orientation, they try to run her paperwork, and she doesn't exist. She doesn't exist at all in the computer or anywhere. And people are starting to accuse her directly of stealing someone's identity. She has to track down a copy of her, not a copy, the original birth certificate. But in so doing, she realizes that the name of the mother that she always thought she knew is not actually the name of her mother. She has to meet her mother because her mother is the one who has the birth certificate. She never had anything to do with her mother from birth onwards. She had nothing to do with her mother. And her dad had always told her this one name for her mother. It's on the copy of the birth certificate that she has, but she finds out that birth certificate is actually a forgery and that was not her mother's real name. And so there's trying to figure out that whole story. She's also totally attracted to and annoyed by the concierge, the doorman in her building that she's just moved into. I have to sneeze. In her building that she's just moved into. And he is more on the side of her dad, although responsibility wise, although much of it turns out to be her misjudging much of what he's doing. And he is just a phenomenal guy. He's so phenomenal. It's lovely. But what really clinches this book for me, and all of that is great, and I would have enjoyed it if that was all it was. But what really clinches this book for me is that there is an aspect of the paranormal in this book, which is just so amazing. And you don't know it's there until you know it's there. And now I just given you a hint that it's there, but it won't ruin anything, and you'll still have the joy and the surprise of it. Because I'll give you one further hint: the elevator. This elevator keeps breaking down. There may be spiritual reasons why, and it's so surprising, but also just so you're being told such a story in such a way that you just let Melissa Weisner just tell you whatever. And you're just like, And I was listening to the end of it while I was walking home, and I had happy tears running down my face and a huge smile. And I just kept air pumping the wind, because I was like, this is so good. In broad daylight in public, walking home. I couldn't contain it. I was just like, this is a book. This is the book. This is what a book should be. It just felt so good. It was so good. Loved it. And I highly recommend it to everybody. There is the tiniest bit of spice and a tiny bit of language, but I still highly recommend it to everybody who enjoys a good, uplifting, funny, kind, dear sort of book, with characters that you can really get behind and understand, with complex arcs and just so much joy. Yeah, highly recommend. Oh, last one. I did read Janet Oakes' the first Love Comes Softly, the first book in her Love Comes Softly series. I reread this. I want to reread the whole thing, and there are some new ones that I never read because they came out when I stopped reading them. So slowly over the course of the year, I'm going to do that. I think there are less than 12 of them, so I can skip a couple months here and there. This one I have always known is not my favorite of the series. It is the foundational one of the series, and the relationship between Marty and, what's his name? Clark. The relationship between Marty and Clark is commendable, but I have also always been slightly annoyed by it for some reason. Slightly annoyed by her. I just feel like, yeah, she's in mourning and she's going through stuff, but she's so kind of angry and spiteful, and all he ever does is show her kindness and gentleness and forgiveness. And yeah, okay, that's part of the Christian storyline of this book. But at the same time, like, don't be mean to people just because you're unhappy. I hate it when books do that, when they kind of gloss over characters that are mean to people because they have a backstory that hurt them. We all have backstories that hurt us. It does not mean that you have a free pass to lash out at people who care about you. And does that happen in real life? Absolutely. Have I ever done that? Probably. But it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't enjoy reading it at all. And so I've always known that the first book, if I can't get through it's a little bit of a put off for me to reread the rest of the books. But I did it. I read it, and I am now fully primed to dive into books in the series that I much more appreciate and will enjoy rereading. So, yes. Okay, that's it. I did it. Yay! What will I eat for dinner? I don't know. What are you eating for dinner? I'm gonna eat and get changed into some pajamas and take the dog on a little adventure, and then edit this video and get it uploaded, get it out there. Hopefully tonight, maybe tomorrow at the latest, because there are other videos that need to go out this month. And this is a shorter month. It's a shorter month. Happy February. This has been my January wrap up. And until we meet again, let's go read.